It's not a real Daytona. Oh, it's not a 675. Hello, welcome back to the channel of nonsense. Triumph has just unveiled the new Daytona 660. And no, Triumph are being very open about the fact this isn't a bike to take around a racetrack. Well, not regularly anyway. This is very much a road-going sports bike. It uses quite a heavily developed version of the Triumph Trident engine. It's got new ergos, it's got new looks, but if you're expecting a Daytona 675R replacement, well, this isn't going to be the bike for you. In this video, I'm going to show you what the new bike looks like, talk about the engine changes, the chassis, the electronics, the price, and when you can get one if you're not an angry old person on the internet shouting at a cloud that it's not a bike from 12 years ago. Let's go. So yeah, it is finally here. All of the specs I think have been leaked ahead of this embargo lifting, but Triumph is being very open about the fact this isn't a 675 replacement. It's not a screaming racetrack bred bike. It's more of a rival of things like the Honda CB 650R, I guess the new Suzuki GSX 8R, and kind of bikes in that niche. They said the ergos of this bike are meant to be a bit more comfortable, not as extreme as a Yamaha R7, but possibly a bit more lent over than the 650R. But anyway, let's talk about the looks. To me, it does still look like a Daytona. I used to own a 675 back in 2010, you know, the white one with the blue frame, and I absolutely loved that bike. It was uncomfortable, but I was young, I toured on it, and it had a really soulful engine. This new one, it doesn't look quite as svelte as the old Daytona, I don't think, but it still looks recognisably Daytona, admittedly now with that underslung exhaust out the side, and obviously it's Euro 5 compliant and all the rest of it. In fact, let's talk about the engine, because that's one of the more interesting bits about this bike. Yeah, it's a 660, so it is a development of the Trident and Tiger Sport engine. But the good news is it's a lot revier now. It's got an extra 2,000 RPM to play with. The red line is north of 12,000 RPM. Peak power is up a lot as well. It's up to 95 horsepower. So that's 16% more than in the Trident. And that's kind of the limit before your bike is no longer eligible to be restricted for A2 license holders. So that was always going to be about as powerful as this bike can be. Torque sits at 69 Newton meters, but when you delve into the engine changes, they're actually quite significant. For a start, they've ditched the old single throttle body from the Trident engine, and they've given it individual triple throttle bodies for a sweeter response, and hopefully slightly more noise as well. There's an all-new cylinder head, there's a new crankshaft, there's new pistons. So yeah, the engine has been worked over pretty thoroughly to make it feel a bit racier, and Triumph say it does feel racier than the Trident engine, which is good because although that engine's nice, it does slightly smack of my first triple. Hopefully this one will feel a bit meaner. The airbox has been moved as well, so hopefully it should just feel like a racier engine to use. In terms of chassis stuff, you've got a Showa big piston fork at the front, which isn't adjustable, sadly. There is going to be a race kit for this bike though, but Triumph haven't actually said what that's going to consist of. And they are really hoping that people are going to take this racing in the new BSB support class, the National Sportsbike Championship, I think it's called. And they've said that some people have actually signed up to use it already. But otherwise, yeah, the chassis, the ergos, they are racier than on the Trident. It's got different headstock angle, different trail, and apparently that does really make it feel a lot more nimble than the Trident, according to Triumph's engineers, who of course want it to sound really, really awesome. It weighs 201 kilograms with a 90% fuel load, so that's ready to go. And up front, you've got radial calipers, which are Triumph branded, and a journalist in my press conference asked who actually makes them, and Triumph were like, no, we're not going to tell you that. Please, just be quiet and look at the bike. In terms of the rolly bits that make you go along, the wheels, they're from a Triumph Street Triple, which is good news, and they've got Michelin Power 6 tyres on them, so decent sporty tyres as well. You've also got braided lines as standard, which should be normal, but an MT10 doesn't get braided lines as standard, and Triumph is doing it for a bike that is significantly cheaper than an MT10. We'll get onto price in a minute as well. Seat height as well is quite approachable. It's 810 millimeters, and Triumph says it's a very narrow bike as well. So the standover, aka what you feel in your gusset when you throw your leg over, is actually really approachable. So it's not going to feel like the old Daytona, which did feel quite high. So this is going to be more cushiony. Still a two-piece seat though. In terms of electronics, you've got the usual Triumph Trident dashboard, so it's that split mono screen at the top of your rev counter and a colour display below it to change through your riding mode. So you've got your rain, your street and your sport riding modes, no track riding mode, which is quite telling, I think, that this isn't really intended to go on racetracks. It's got switchable traction control and ABS, no 6-axis IMU, and you'll see why at the end when we get to the price, because it is an affordable bike. You've got full LED headlights and yeah, loads of accessories like scrolling indicators, top boxes, tank bags, not top boxes, tail packs and tank bags and things like that. The usual Triumph kind of, we want to sell lots of our aftermarket products to get more profit out of you, human. Annoyingly, a quick shifter is also on the accessory list. I don't think it's going to be standard. And Triumph is making a big deal about how the service intervals on this bike are pretty decent, about 10,000 miles or thereabouts. But I guess it's going to be one of those things where you get it serviced every year anyway. So there you have it. That's pretty much it. It's going to come in red, white or satin greys you've seen in these photos. And the big news really for me was the price. Let's do a drum roll while I look at my phone and remember what the price is going to be. £8,595. So a fiver less than £8,600. That really, to me, speaks of good value. It's only £700 more than a Trident. Obviously, it's a different sort of bike, but it is more powerful. It has got higher spec, and Triumph, as usual, is promising a lovely level of fit and finish, like your grandma's finest knobby china or something. But yeah, £8,600 for a 660cc triple with 95 horsepower, the Daytona name, and all the rest of it. Do you think it should be called a Daytona though? Because the Daytona name has always been reserved for proper sports bikes, which are really track focused. And now this is going back to, I guess, the original 595 Daytona days where it was a bit more road focused. And there are lots of people out there saying, oh, you could have revived the Sprint name for this bike, but it's not as cool, is it? Sprint versus Daytona. But anyway, that's an argument I always have on my car channel when Ford does things like bringing out an electric car called the Mustang or an SUV called the Puma. That's just what they can do. They own the brand, they own the IP, and those names have got cachet, which they then try and smear on a different kind of product. So yeah, Triumph is smearing the Daytona name on a slightly more road-going sports bike. Does that make you angry? Probably shouldn't, because we are getting a new Daytona. It's just slightly different to the old one. We should be thankful that they've even bothered at all. And we should be thankful there is a resurgence in this sort of middleweight sports bike sector. And we should also be thankful it's not another bloody parallel twin. But anyway, thank you ever so much for watching this video. If it's been helpful or interesting, please hit like. Hopefully I'll get a chance to ride the Daytona 660 at some point this year. And of course, I'll bring you my full bald man review. When I do that, go down, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good, I can't say good new year. It's been 7 days already. I'll see you soon.